What are your thoughts on a prenup? My girlfriend is against it.
Make sure you hit them with the prenup.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, to me, I have no interest in getting married and involving the state in any way, shape, or form. I mean, just the one time I got married when I was in my 20s, and I was only together a year. We had no kids, but it took me almost 3 years to finally get out of it, dispose of the property, and
Did you
just
have a
be done
prenup?
with the lawyers. Huh? Of
Did you have a prenup?
course not. We were young. I was like 25. I didn't know anything. But the other thing is, you got to keep in mind, like these blue states, the laws are completely slanted in the woman's favor and totally not good
That's
for
a
the
red state.
guy at all. And so I think a prenup is great because what is the divorce rate? 50, 60% typically, depending on the state. And so you got a 50-50 chance of getting a divorce. The last thing everybody's thinking about when they're getting married is getting
divorce.
a divorce.
Nobody wants a divorce.
And if you're going to get involved and involve the government, I would absolutely get a prenup. And if the girl is not down with it, just say, well, then let's do a civil marriage. And we'll do a partnership agreement between us to handle houses or anything we buy or we invest in during or we accumulate things when we're married. We come to an agreement on how we're going to co-parent if we don't stay together and do it that way and don't involve the state. And if she's not down with it, well, I mean, talk to some friends, that, especially people that live in blue states or friends of yours or family members of yours that have gone through a divorce and had kids and alimony and child support and all that stuff. And then even after you've finalized your divorce, when you got guys that still don't get along with their significant other, maybe they have different values on parenting. They get, the girl doesn't like the guy's new girlfriend, or vice versa. The guy doesn't like his ex-wife, new boyfriend. And so when there's exchanging the kids, when it's time to switch, for the weekend or whatever, or the custody part, it's like it becomes nasty. Or your significant other showing up late with the kids or not showing up with them at all. And it's like, man, all you end up doing is making the lawyers very, very wealthy. And so I would highly recommend against getting married and involving the state. But if you're crazy enough to do that, which I don't think it's a good idea, financially is way too much downside risk, I would definitely get a prenup. But a better way is to not involve the government and just have some kind of a partnership or business agreement between the two of you to handle your assets or co-parenting duties or anything. Because the less you involve the government, the easier it's going to be to move on with your life if it does not work out.
Yeah, I think Jade and I both have something else to say about this.
I'm sure they do.
Well, I would never want to sign a prenup. I would take Corey's route and make an agreement outside of the courts and stuff like that, and I would follow it. But also, I think if you're not going to be married, you should always just have the set of rules to, if something were to happen, that you can follow. I just found out, maybe like a month or two ago, one of Pete's friends, he was dating this lady for a good amount of time, and they broke up, and she wouldn't leave the house. And so I guess in Florida they have a squatters rule, so she wouldn't leave, so he had to go and buy another house for
Were they
to
living
live
together?
in. Yeah.
Clearly.
So he bought another house for her and sent her to the new house?
No,
for himself.
For himself, she wouldn't leave the house.
And they were married?
It's a
No.
civil.
It was civil because they were together
with somebody. For
they
a
were
certain amount of
together,
time.
and then she wouldn't leave the house. He asked her to leave.
Well, the other
but she
crazy
wouldn't
thing
leave.
is that if you buy a house and say it's vacant and empty and you're go on vacation for a few weeks and people move in and turn the power and the lights on and everything, you can't just show up and grab them and throw them out into the front yard.
Well, if they're
you
paying
have
the
to go
bill.
through the eviction process
Right.
now.
That's ridiculous.
And some of the other states where the laws are even
and this
worse
is a red
for
state
the guy
we're
that
talking
owns
about.
it. But like I said, if they've been able to go get the power turned on and they're living in your house and they've been there, they've got cable bills, you're gonna have to go through the legal system. You can't just move into your house then. I mean, those things.
So you might as well marry them.
Do happen, but in the state of Florida, like I said, if you are married and you own a house, and it's the primary residence, it's 50-50. You each have a right to live there. Now, this particular house, I don't know who owned it, but
No, he owned it, and it was like a very nice house.
so
Like,
what you would have to do in that case is strategically, when she's at work or whatever, get all of her stuff moved out, change the locks, and lock her out of the house. That's the best. That's the only way you're going to get away with something like that if she literally refuses to leave.
If her name is
she was.
not on the
Well, I think she was kind of a
deed.
crazy lady, so I don't know if he was afraid for himself, for
I don't
Yeah,
know.
you
anything
don't want to get in a
else.
physical
The
confrontation because they
legality
take the
behind
guy
all
to jail
that,
Yeah.
automatically.
it's very tricky. But honestly, if you're in a committed relationship with someone and you have some weird stuff happening, I think you're going to be speaking to your attorneys way before you decide to part ways with your partner.
Yeah.
I would definitely take the smart route instead of the more.
Yeah.
I think the reason why she doesn't want a prenup is for the simple reason that prenups get like bad reps nowadays. Like people just simply don't want to picture themselves.
It doesn't mean you're not.
separating themselves
They're not
from
getting
others.
anything out of it's like prenups is to protect pretty much both of you, not just the person that's
Correct.
delivering it.
Some women, it's sentimental. They're like, well, everything's supposed
Yeah.
to be 50-50. And
I also think
Yeah,
that
but then
prenups are also like
then
a
she
way
wants to take everything, so that's not right.
But even still, a lot of times, especially if you're wealthy, your wife's going to, ex-wife to be is going to go out and get an attorney that is going to,
You're gonna get
the dude's got deep
reamed.
pockets. It's just like insurance, or if something happens. It's like if you
There's
got,
also post
they go after whoever has the deepest pockets. And so if you're a wealthy guy, even if you have signed a prenup, I mean, you hear about it with celebrities all the time, even though they got a prenup, then they want to fight it and in essence try to negotiate and get a bigger cut. They say something changed, and you have to spend money to fight it. And the idea is they hope to wear you down, and you're just like, all right, just write the check. You just go the
But
hell
there's
away.
also alimony if you have kids.
Well, the prenup
there's-
spells all that out. But again, even if you
True.
signed one, they still can sue and try
There's
to overturn
contingency on everything that's legal. But at the end of the day, if you are with somebody and you love them and you don't see yourself parting ways, I don't think that anything, government, laws, whatever you want to call it, like, I don't think that anything like that should really matter.
That's
Like,
what I'm
I think that
saying.
you should just do your thing and just be happy and like not really think past
The rules of
anything.
the lands.
Like make it your own. Like I
Make
don't
up
know.
your own laws.
Just don't complicate shit. Because this world is hard enough as it is, and try not to make it any harder than it needs to be.
That's what I'm saying. Like people just don't want to picture themselves like potentially separating themselves from their partner. So
Right.
it's just, I guess the emotional aspect, maybe there's a chance that maybe she just doesn't want to get a prenup because she doesn't see herself like separating from the guy.
Well, nobody
Right,
does
but, I
in
mean,
the beginning.
you
They're
don't
like,
wanna-
I'm going to
And
separate.
don't wanna
maybe
get a
deep
divorce,
down,
you
she
don't
wants to
wanna-
be able to go after him with her claws out and her talons out if something goes sideways. Because
But
I
why
have
should it go sideways?
I have a friend who got married, and he and his wife split up, and they agreed like she was going to get the house, he was going to keep the investment properties, and like a dummy, he did. I was like, after he did this, I was like, why didn't you call me, dude? It's like he signs a quitclaim, dude, because he just assumed his wife was going to keep her word. Now, keep in mind, they hadn't had sex the last 3+ years of their relationship, and they already weren't getting along, but he was dumb enough and gullible enough to believe that his wife was going to honor that commitment. And it's just like when it comes to business, when it comes to real estate, and you're dealing with women, because you all tend to be emotional, and we make our decisions based on emotions and then use logic and reason to justify it. And if a woman is upset, especially, and like in this particular case, my friend started dating a woman who was much, basically half his age, and eventually they finalized their divorce. But what came out in like a heated discussion he was having with her one night was that She wanted to take as much, and she said this to him. She says, I wanted to make it so you couldn't afford to have another family. And so that was just her irrational way of getting back at him to, to basically harm him financially to the point where he just wouldn't have the desire or the financial wherewithal to afford having kids, in essence, with his new half, woman who's half his age, which he ended up having kids with anyways. But point being is that was a lot of money. That was $1 million+ right there, just gone because he's like, oh, I'm gonna sign a quitclaim. I'm sure it'll be fine. And the judge was like, yeah, you signed the quitclaim. Legally, it's the house ain't yours. Doesn't matter what you agreed in verbally, because when it concerns real estate, the law is it must be in writing.
That's
He didn't get it in
disgusting.
writing. And so you can say, what a horrible thing, because I know his wife. I love her to death. She's a cool chick, but when I heard that, I was like, damn. I was like, that is some cold-blooded, harsh revenge dish. Very, very, very ice-cold dish that she served to him. And those things are going to happen. So anything you can resolve up front, especially when you go into business with somebody, having a partnership agreement that also spells out what happens if you guys don't want to stay in business together, or somebody wants to retire or get bought out, or maybe they get incapacitated somehow. It's the more you can spell out ahead of time, the easier it's going to be if you have to disengage. If you involve the state, it's a nightmare. I would not do it. I wouldn't recommend it, especially if you live in a blue state. I think you're out of your mind if you get married in a blue state and involve the government.
For people who actually do want to get married.
I already said. Civil marriage. Get a partnership agreement.
Yeah, but what about people who do want to get married?
You can get married. You just don't have
Like,
to write
you're
signed
just so,
papers
like,
and don't
You're
declare
just so
papers.
against people who like.
Well, you could be a Muslim. You got triple
But
talaq
you're, like,
divorce,
so
which I think
all
is
about,
great.
like,
You can go, I divorce you,
polygamy and,
I
like,
divorce you, I divorce you,
And
poof,
all
you're
that.
divorced.
Like, what? Why not? Why can't people still have like the traditional value of being married? Like, just because you're so against it, why?
Well, you don't
is
have
it...
to involve the government, is the point. You can still have your religious ceremony if you
But
want.
even though it's not for you, like, why can't other people still do it?
I didn't say other people couldn't.
But
I'm
you're
just
so,
saying I
like,
think they're crazy.
You're
to do
so
it.
far right and like against
You're
it.
far right, Corey.
It's just like you don't have to be. The government doesn't need to know that you're married. Like
They don't need to be involved.
You can have your ceremony and all your stuff,
Right.
and have
And rings.
paperwork
I
together.
agree with all of
But
that. I'm just saying,
You don't need
but
to go
you're
to the
so
courthouse
far
5
right,
days
like,
before
on
and
it.
get your marriage license and
Yeah.
everything else. You don't have to.
Why get the marriage license?
Yeah.
Why do all that? Why involve
Yeah.
the
Make your
government?
own.
And you have to spend more money on some dumb bullshit. What do you need that for?
What
You
was
don't.
it? Wait, what is it? $460?
$427.
$427.
For
It
what?
is $427
For just-
to get a divorce.
Just to sign the papers.
Just to sign the paperwork.
Well, the paperwork's $30. You have to pay for a paper. The paperwork's like this thick, and it's like $30 for paper. I'm like, I could have just borrowed somebody else's,
I could have printed that shit for you.
right? It's like then you go to. It's like,
It's not worth it. Don't do it.
yeah.
How?
Don't involve the government. If you want to get married,
It
get
takes
married.
a whole stack of papers. Literally. You have to buy a whole true stack of paper.
And you don't know what none of that shit means either.
You're like, Coach, why haven't you ever got married again? It's like, why? Why?
How do
buy-
you know that? Wait, how do
Why
people know
buy
that you
the
haven't?
cow when you can get the milk for free?